My older brother betrayed my other brother with his fiancée 2 weeks before the wedding, destroyed our entire family. But years later, karma gave Chris what he deserved, and now he's completely alone begging for forgiveness. I'm 22 years old, just graduated from college like 6 months ago. And honestly, I don't even know where to start with this story because it's so messed up that sometimes I still can't believe it's real. My family basically got destroyed, like completely went to shit, and all because of a betrayal that I never thought would happen. I guess I should start at the beginning. When we were kids and my parents drilled into us all the time that family is the most important thing. That blood is thicker than water. You know, all that family loyalty stuff they tell you from when you're little. And the truth is, we believed it. I mean, I grew up thinking that my siblings would always be there, that we would never betray each other because that was like the worst sin you could commit in our house. There are 4 of us siblings total. Chris is the oldest. He's 29 now. He was handsome, funny, the typical perfect older brother. Then there's Ethan, who's 25, and he's the complete opposite of Chris. Like more quiet, more introverted. One of those people who works hard for everything they have and never expects things to just fall into their lap. Then comes Olivia, who's 26. She's the most level-headed of all of us. She was always like the voice of reason in the family. And then there's me, the baby of the family. And for some reason, I always ended up being like everyone's confidant. The person everyone told their things to. I don't know why, but that's how it always was. We grew up in a normal house, nothing special. My parents worked hard, raised us well, I guess, and the truth is, we were a close family. One of those that does Sunday dinners and celebrates all the birthdays together and all that stuff. Chris and Ethan were always close, despite being so different. I mean, yeah, they fought like all siblings, but they had that special connection that brothers of the same gender have, you know what I mean? They did things together. Went out for beers, watched sports, all that vibe. Ethan always admired Chris. That was super obvious, and Chris protected him when we were kids. So there was this dynamic of older brother taking care of younger brother that looked nice from the outside. I'd watch them and think, that's how it should be, you know? That's how a family works well. Things started to change 3 years ago when Ethan met Lauren. He was 22 at that time. She was 23, I think, and they met at work or something like that. I don't remember the exact details. What I do remember is that Ethan was super in love, like I'd never seen him like that with anyone. Lauren was pretty. I'm not gonna lie. Tall, blonde. One of those girls that when she walks into a place, everyone turns to look at her. And she seemed super nice at first. Honestly. She got along well with the whole family, came to dinners, helped my mom in the kitchen, made jokes with my dad. She was like the perfect daughter-in-law. Ethan and Lauren started dating, and after 2 years, he proposed to her. He was the first of all of us to get engaged, and I remember we were all super happy for him, like it was a big moment for the family. My mom cried when Ethan announced the engagement. My dad gave him one of those strong hugs. Chris patted him on the back and told him he was really happy for him. Everything seemed perfect, literally like a movie. They started planning the wedding. Lauren was obsessed with all the details, she spent hours talking about flowers and dresses and venues, and I honestly got a little bored, but, well, she was excited and Ethan was happy, so we were all happy for them. The wedding was planned for 6 months after the engagement. Nothing too long, but not too quick either. And this is where things start to get weird. But at that moment, I didn't realize everything that was happening. I mean, there were signs, but I was young and didn't think they meant what they meant. Lauren started spending a lot of time with Chris. At first it didn't seem weird because, well, he was her future brother-in-law, right? It makes sense that they'd be close. But then I started noticing weird things. They had inside jokes that nobody else understood. They'd laugh at things only they knew about. They texted all the time. I'd see them at family gatherings, and there was something about the way they looked at each other that made me feel uncomfortable, but I couldn't explain why. It was like this strange energy between them, you know? Lauren would touch Chris's arm when she talked to him. She'd sit next to him on the couch even though Ethan was in the room. Things like that by themselves don't mean anything, but when you put them all together, they start to form a pattern. One day, Ethan came to my apartment. I was already living alone at that point. I'd just moved out after graduating high school. And he looked really bad, like he had dark circles and looked tired. He sat on my couch and told me, "I need to talk to you about something, but I don't know if I'm being paranoid." And I told him, "What's up, brother?" And he confessed to me that he'd noticed weird things between Lauren and Chris. He told me they spent a lot of time together, that Lauren always found excuses to go see Chris, that sometimes she wouldn't answer his texts for hours, but then he'd find out she'd been with Chris. He told me that once he came home early and found Lauren on a video call with Chris, laughing about something, and when she saw him arrive, she hung up super fast and acted like nothing happened. I just sat there listening to him and didn't know what to tell him, because I'd noticed things too, but didn't want to be the one to put ideas in his head, you know what I mean? I asked him if he'd talked to Lauren about this, and he told me he'd tried. But she always had a perfect explanation for everything. That Chris was helping her with the surprise for Ethan's bachelor party, that they were planning a special gift for him, that they were just friends, and Ethan was being insecure. And Ethan told me that maybe she was right, that maybe he was being paranoid from wedding nerves, but that he couldn't shake that feeling. I told him to trust his gut, that if something felt wrong, there was probably a reason. But the truth is, I didn't want to believe Chris was capable of something like that either. I mean, he was our brother, the older brother, the one who was supposed to take care of us and protect us. He couldn't be that much of an asshole, could he? Like 2 more months passed and things got worse. I started noticing more things too. One time I went to my parents' house and Lauren was there with Chris, alone, watching a movie in the basement. They told me Ethan was going to arrive later from work and they were killing time. But something about the way they were sitting, like super close on the couch, with the lights off, made me feel like I was interrupting something. Another time, I saw on Instagram that Chris had posted a photo with Lauren at a restaurant, just the two of them, and the caption said something like, "Lunch with my favorite future sister-in-law." But the photo looked very comfortable, very intimate. I don't know how to explain it. And I'd think, what the hell is going on here? Olivia started noticing things too. One day she called me and told me she'd seen Chris and Lauren coming out of a hotel downtown, like midday during the week. And when she said hi to them, they got super nervous and started giving weird explanations that they'd gone to see the venue for the wedding, even though the wedding venue was in a completely different place. Olivia told me, "Something's going on and it's nothing good." And I told her, "I know. But what can we do? We don't have proof of anything." And she was right. We didn't have concrete proof, just this horrible feeling in our stomachs that something really bad was happening. And then everything exploded. It was like 2 weeks before the wedding. Everything was already paid for. The guests already had their plane tickets if they were coming from out of town. Lauren's dress was ready. Everything was planned down to the last detail. Ethan called me on a Friday night. It was like 11 at night, and I was about to go to sleep. I answered the phone, and all I heard was my brother crying, literally sobbing on the phone. And I got so scared because I'd never heard Ethan cry like that. I asked him what happened, and he couldn't even speak properly. Finally, he managed to tell me. Lauren confessed she's having an affair with Chris, and I felt like I'd been kicked in the stomach. I went to his apartment immediately, like I drove like crazy because I needed to be with my brother. When I arrived, he was sitting on the living room floor, surrounded by boxes of wedding decorations, and he looked destroyed, completely broken. I sat with him, and he told me everything. Lauren had come that night and told him she couldn't marry him because she was in love with Chris. She confessed they'd been having an affair for months, basically the entire time they were planning the wedding. She told him that at first it was just conversations, that she and Chris had gotten really close because they had a lot in common, but then it turned into something more and they couldn't hide it anymore. Ethan told me she didn't even seem to feel bad about what she'd done, that she basically blamed him for not being as interesting as Chris, for not making her laugh like Chris made her laugh. And I was sitting there listening to all this, feeling a rage I'd never felt in my life, like I wanted to go to Chris's house and break his face. Lauren moved in with Chris, literally, the next day. She packed all her stuff from the apartment she shared with Ethan and went to live with our brother like nothing, like she hadn't just completely destroyed someone's life. And Chris, that son of a bitch, Chris didn't even have the balls to talk to Ethan before Lauren confessed. He didn't even try to explain himself or ask for forgiveness or anything. He just accepted Lauren into his house and went on with his life like he hadn't done anything wrong. My parents found out the next day, and my dad's reaction was something I'll never forget. My dad is a calm man normally, one of those who never raises his voice, but when he found out what Chris had done, he turned red with rage. He called Chris and told him he no longer had an oldest son. That, for him, Chris had died that day, that how dare he betray his brother like that after everything they'd taught them about family and loyalty. My dad literally yelled at him on the phone, "You're not my son. I never want to see you again. You're dead to me." And then he hung up. I was there when it happened, and I'd never seen my dad that angry, like he was shaking with rage. My mom had a different reaction. She was devastated, cried all the time, but her way of dealing with this was trying to defend Chris. She'd say things like, "Love is complicated. These things happen. Chris didn't want it to happen, but it happened. We can't control who we fall in love with." And I'd look at her thinking, "Are you listening to yourself, Mom? Your oldest son just destroyed your other son and you're defending him?" My mom started going to visit Chris and Lauren. Like once a week, she'd go to their apartment and spend time with them, and every time she did, my dad would get horribly angry. My parents started fighting all the time about this, like yelling things at each other like, "You're allowing this. You're validating what he did." And my mom would yell back, "I'm not going to lose another son. I already lost one, I'm not going to lose two." Olivia completely cut off contact with Chris. She was super clear from the beginning. I remember she said, "What Chris did is unforgivable. I don't care. That he's my brother. There are things you don't do, and this is one of them." She blocked Chris from everywhere, changed her phone number so he couldn't contact her, and made it very clear that if anyone in the family maintained contact with Chris, she was going to limit her relationship with that person too. I did the same. I mean, I wasn't going to keep having a relationship with someone who did that to Ethan. My dad obviously also cut all contact. So the family basically split into two camps, those who supported Ethan, my dad, Olivia and me, and those who supported Chris, just my mom, basically. Ethan was destroyed. Honestly, there's no other way to describe it. He lost like 20 pounds in the first month, didn't sleep well, barely ate, stopped going out with his friends. He had to cancel the wedding, obviously, which was a horrible process because they lost a ton of money in deposits that weren't refundable. And on top of that, he had to call all the guests to explain why there wouldn't be a wedding anymore. Some of the guests had already bought their plane tickets, and he felt horrible about that. His work started being affected too because he couldn't concentrate, was late all the time, made mistakes. I went to his apartment almost every day to make sure he was eating something, to take out his trash, to clean up a bit, because he just didn't have the energy to do anything. And meanwhile, Chris and Lauren went on with their lives like nothing. They started posting photos together on social media, like photos at fancy restaurants, on weekend trips, at concerts, and I'd see them, before blocking them, and think, they have zero shame, zero remorse. My mom would tell us they were very happy together, that it was clear they were really in love, and every time she said that I felt like screaming at her to stop justifying them. Family gatherings ended completely. Before we had Sunday dinners at my parents' house every week, we celebrated all the birthdays together, spent Christmas and Thanksgiving all together as a family. All that ended. My dad made it clear that if Chris was invited to something, he wasn't going to go. And Olivia and I said the same. So my mom had to start doing separate celebrations, like she'd see Chris and Lauren alone, and then do something different with the rest of us. And it was obvious she hated having to do that, but she had no other choice. Like 6 months later, Chris and Lauren got engaged. My mom announced it to us at a dinner, without Chris, obviously, and I saw Ethan's face when she said it, and I thought he was going to throw up right there at the table. My dad got up and left without saying a word. Olivia told my mom she didn't want to hear anything about Chris and Lauren ever again, that she didn't care what they did with their lives, but she didn't want to know anything. I stayed quiet because I didn't trust what I was going to say if I opened my mouth. My mom started crying and said she just wanted the family to be united again, that this couldn't go on like this forever. But the truth is, it could go on like this forever, because what Chris did was unforgivable. They got married 6 months after getting engaged, super fast, in a small ceremony. My mom was the only one from the family who attended. She told us afterwards it was a nice wedding, intimate, only like 20 people, that Chris and Lauren looked very happy. None of us wanted to hear that. My dad told her that if she kept going to visit them and attending their events and defending them, he was going to start distancing himself from her too. And my mom started crying and said it was an impossible position, that she couldn't choose between her children. But the thing is, she did have to choose. Because you can't be neutral in a situation like this, not when one of your children betrayed another so horribly. Ethan eventually started improving a little. Like after the first year, things got more bearable for him. He moved to a new apartment because he couldn't stand being in the place where he'd lived with Lauren, changed jobs, started going to therapy. He met some new girls, but nothing serious. He'd tell me he still didn't trust people much after what happened. Olivia accepted a job in another city like 2 years after all this, basically went as far as she could from the family. She'd come visit us sometimes, but it was clear all this drama had affected her a lot, and she needed distance. I finished college, got my first real job, and tried to make my life. But there was always this dark cloud over the whole family, this crack that was never going to be able to be repaired. My mom kept trying to force a reconciliation. Every so often, she'd tell us, "Enough time has passed. You have to forgive Chris. Family is the most important thing." But none of us were interested. My dad especially stayed firm in his position that Chris didn't exist for him. At Christmas and birthdays, my mom would do 2 separate celebrations, and it was depressing for everyone, but it was the only way. And then, like 6 months ago, something happened that honestly made me feel a dark satisfaction that I probably shouldn't admit, but the truth is, I felt it. Lauren cheated on Chris. Yeah, just like you hear it, she did to him exactly what they'd done to Ethan. I don't know all the details because obviously I don't talk to Chris, but my mom told us. Apparently, Lauren met someone at her work. They started an affair. Chris found out. It was a complete mess. My mom was devastated for Chris, said he was destroyed, that he didn't understand how Lauren could do that to him. And I just sat there thinking, seriously, Mom? Seriously, you don't see the irony in this? Don't you see that this is exactly what he did to Ethan? My mom tried to get all of us to go support Chris in this difficult moment. She called all of us separately, asking us to please go see him, that he needed us, that he was going through something horrible. My dad told her no, that Chris made his bed, and now he had to lie in it. Olivia didn't even answer her phone when she knew what it was about. I told her, "Mom, Chris destroyed Ethan in the same way, remember? Remember how Ethan was when this happened? Why does Chris deserve our support when he didn't give his brother any support?" Ethan found out too, obviously, and his reaction was interesting. He didn't get happy exactly, like he wasn't one of those who laughed or celebrated that Chris was suffering. But there was something in his eyes, a kind of justice or validation. He told me, "I'm not glad he's suffering, but I'm not going to pretend I care either. Now he knows how it feels." And he was right. Now Chris knew exactly how Ethan felt 3 years ago. That betrayal, that feeling that the person you love stabbed you in the back with someone close. Right now, things are basically the same as they've been for the last few years. Chris and Lauren got divorced. That was like 3 months ago. Chris was left alone, lost his family for her, and then she left him too, so he's completely isolated. My mom keeps going to visit him, keeps trying to convince us to forgive him, but none of us has changed our minds. The truth is, I don't think things are ever going to change. What Chris did destroyed our family in a way that can't be repaired, no matter how much time passes or what consequences he faces now. My dad told me last week he doesn't regret cutting off contact with Chris, that there are certain betrayals that are unforgivable, and this is one of them. My dad is 58 years old now, and he told me he's probably going to die without talking to his oldest son again, and that he's at peace with that because his values don't allow him to forgive what happened. It's sad when I think about it like that. Like my dad prefers to die without seeing one of his children again rather than forgive this betrayal. But at the same time, I completely understand it. Ethan is better now. Honestly. He's 25 years old, has a good job, lives in a nice apartment, goes out with his friends. He's seeing someone new but very casual still. He told me recently he doesn't think about Lauren or what happened as much anymore, that it doesn't hurt like it used to. He said that in the end this helped him see who was really on his side and who wasn't, and that he's grateful for that. I don't know if he's really as okay as he says, or if he's just pretending so we don't worry, but I want to believe he's better. The family remains divided, and probably always will be. There are no more Sunday dinners, no more big celebrations where we're all together, no more that feeling of family unity we had before. Chris basically stopped existing for most of us. He's like a ghost, this person who used to be part of our lives but isn't anymore. And the irony of all this is that my parents raised us with that value, that family is the most important thing. That family loyalty is above everything. And it was precisely that family betrayal that destroyed everything. Chris broke the only rule that was supposed to be unbreakable in our house. And now we're all paying the price for that, but especially him.